Looking at the chapter pages, I want to recreate the more traditional approach of having the text start a lot lower down on the page. But I want to do that by adding space before the headings. So I'm going to go back to the heading styles and back to format paragraph, and the space before I'm going to increase right up to 72. If you remember, that's one of the jumps in the 1.6 sizing up in this size. And I also want to increase the after to 29. Now, when I apply this, it seems like the page has jumped. I'm not worried about this because it's to do with the table of contents, which is going to be the last thing, because then all the pagination's done. So all I'm interested in at this point is how the title pages look for the chapters. And I also want a little bit more space around the subheadings. I'm going to do the same thing with those. Back to format the paragraph and add 29 points after, and that moves my text down. And if I can look at each chapter and they're all the same, they're all working the way I want them to work. And we do that rather than adding lots of carriage returns in, because this way we know that each page it's the same all the way through. So the next thing I want to look at is, because I'm using fiction, I don't want the indent on the first paragraph of each chapter. So I have a spare style in the gallery that I'm not using for anything else. So what I will do there is modify the style and just make sure there's no space before or after. Make sure it's at exactly 18 and just leave it with no indentation. And then all I need to do is apply that style to the first chapter in each paragraph. Now, if you want to use drop caps, you're going to have to put them in individually. I tend to avoid them, but you can if you so choose. Insert a drop cap from the insert, and it's fairly simple to just go with the standard or to choose the drop cap options and decide where you want it, what font you want to use, how many lines to drop, and how much space to leave around the text. Unless you have a particularly strong reason for using drop caps, personally I would leave them out. If you want to have a play with them, this is the time. If you do insert a drop cap, what you have, I'm going to zoom in. If we just zoom in a little bit, you can see it's quite obvious that on the first line, Eden, but then on the following lines you need to put some extra space in. Which, if you try to do using the space bar, you see it just adds spaces to the end of the previous line. Which means you have to hold down the shift and enter, and then put the space in to give you the white space around the letter on lines other than the first line. So that's how you would do a drop cap, making it visual so that you can see that only the first line carries on from the drop cap, and the other lines, the words read sensibly for the reader. So that's the first pages. Again, it's time to go away and have a play with your manuscript, and I'll see you in the next lecture.